So I just got my blood test results back from Inside Tracker. Let's go over them together and zero in on some interesting biomarkers. So I've been blood testing for years, and this is a perfect time to get retested because I'm just gearing up for a monster season right now. This latest test was under heavy training load, but the one before that in the fall was actually 9 days into postseason downtime. I've also made some changes based on recommendations from the algorithm since then, so it's really interesting to see how things have shifted. All right, let's start with a good news story. Total testosterone. This is pretty freaking awesome for a 32-year-old. I'm proud of this because if you know about my history, this is something I struggled with in the past, mostly due to overtraining, undereating, poor management of stress, insomnia, you name it. So the app kind of called me out of my sleep habits, and I've been working really hard on changing that. Free testosterone improved a little bit since my last test, as did hormone binding globulin, which is back in the healthy range. Love to see that. B12. This is one I paid close attention to because I follow a mostly plant-based diet. And in this case, I've fallen a little bit out of the optimal range. So this is a good catch by Inside Tracker, and I plan to start supplementing it based on their recommendations. I'm really minimal with the supplements I take. I generally look for a proven need or a really strong evidence basis before I put anything in my body. Iron. This one's really easy to mess up as an athlete. In the past, my levels were too low, so I was taking a pretty high dose, and that actually resulted in my levels becoming too high. So based on the recommendations, I dialed that supplement back, and now I'm back within the optimal range. So really, this is one, if you're supplementing and not testing, you're just shooting blindly. Vitamin D. So this has actually trended down a little since my last test, despite supplementing over the winter. So I'm planning to take the Inside Tracker dietitian's recommendation for me to supplement 5,000 IU a day. Cortisol, unsurprisingly not optimal for me. I was really stressed physically and psychologically when this test happened. And so I'm going to be working on this by incorporating Inside Tracker's recommendations around my sleep routine, as well as finally implementing a mindfulness routine. I'm in business this time. Magnesium, a success for me because my past test results were a little suboptimal. So I started supplementing 500 milligrams a day based on the recommendations, and now I'm back up into the optimal range. I care about this one because it's involved with sleep as well as mental health. Overall,
A very warm welcome to another video. So that was Cody Beals talking about his recent blood test, which is literally just put up in the last day or two on his Instagram page. Anyone can go and check that out. But that was basically the whole clip that we played in the intro there, and going over some very important biomarkers for athletic performance and health in general. So testosterone, free testosterone, cortisol, vitamin D, iron, magnesium, etc. And one thing to note is that his free testosterone was very, very decent. His total testosterone was incredibly good for, by any standards, being right up in those ranges. But this is something that he's talked about quite a lot in the past. His issues with low testosterone. So at the moment as it sits, even during heavy training, which is great, even with a little bit of cortisol or a little bit too much cortisol in the system, which can cut down on your testosterone or suppress your testosterone, or negatively affect it at least. Cody is still maintaining very nice levels or very decent, healthy levels of testosterone that most guys would probably be pretty happy with, regardless of the training, anyway. So this is, like I said, something he's talked about a lot and something he's struggled with in the past. And so this article here was from 2014 even, July 16, 2014, How I Triumphed Over Low Testosterone, Part 2. So this was more of an issue in his early career, and he went over some of his previous blood tests where we have the reference ranges for free testosterone, and in all across 2014 or 16 he had a few tests and they were all under even the lower limit of the reference range. Then later on in 18, 19 he'd kind of got back up there, but essentially low testosterone will have detrimental effects on your ability to recover, your mindset, your overall health and happiness, your sexual function, of course, but libido and drive, motivation, across many things, bone health, heart health, red blood cell production, endurance, many things that people don't associate testosterone generally with. So this is a great article because it goes over the whole thing of how he kind of got over it, what he did to improve. And I think a lot of guys could take away a lot from that, particularly if they're stressed. If you're training hard, you're training for an Ironman, you don't want to be throwing these things that he's going to be talking about under the bus and ending up at the end of your block with crushed testosterone levels, sky high cortisol, and just in a poor state of health that you're going to need to take time off to recover from. So in the first part of this article, How I Trashed My Testosterone, the first part of this article received a tremendous response. I've discovered that many men share my concerns from young elite athletes to aging weekend warriors. In part 1, I identified the key factors that led to my troubles with T, or testosterone: chronic overreaching in training, underfueling workouts, dietary risk factors, insomnia, stress, anxiety, and low-level depression. Now, chronic overreaching. This is just a form of stress. Is going to increase cortisol. This is going to increase the stress response in the body. And when the body's in a chronic state of hypervigilant stress, the last thing it wants to be doing is reproduction. And testosterone is a reproductive hormone. Obviously, it's more than that. There are many health, effects of testosterone. However, the general drive and the general drive to reproduce that I guess testosterone facilitates, it's not a focus. When the body's stressed, it wants to survive. So testosterone, of course, goes down in the list of priorities, I guess, in terms of what the body is wanting to push out. And again, it's the whole hypothalamic pituitary, testicular axis, how cortisol disrupts all that. But generally, think about it like in basic terms. So underfueling workouts, another form of stress, not getting the calories, needing to put cortisol up to get energy from fats, and just being in that constant state of hunger. Dietary risk factors. So obviously, I'm guessing he's referring to micronutrient deficiencies. Insomnia, of course, sleep is super important for complete hormone balance. The thyroid, growth hormone output, lowering cortisol, testosterone levels, many things. And of course, insomnia will really be detrimental, as well with other things. Sleep apnea, anything that disrupts your sleep is going to affect your testosterone and other hormones generally. Stress, anxiety, and low-level depression, of course. So if I had set out to trash my testosterone, I would have been hard-pressed to do a better job. I screwed up big time, but I was bouncing back much stronger and smarter. In this article, I'll share the holistic science-based approach I'm taking to recover from low T. This is by no means intended to be a comprehensive guide, but rather my own case study. If the truth be told, this post is a tad premature. I'm still waiting for my next blood test to confirm that I am in fact on the right track, but this steady reversal of symptoms described in part 1 leaves little doubt in my mind. And he would go on to get tests that were back within the normal range. And of course, those recent tests he's done in, January of 2023 show that he is absolutely on top of all this now. So we can learn a lot from this. Training and recovery. Not surprisingly, there is a good deal of evidence that overtraining, overreaching, under recovery can decrease testosterone levels. I paid lip service to the idea of training smart, but a major hurdle for any self-coached athlete is the absence of an objective perspective. Too often, there was a disconnect between what I thought I was accomplishing and what I was actually doing. This year, I was finally ready to hand over the reins to two very capable coaches. So, of course, be very cognizant of if your body's going down a path of becoming too overtrained, too stressed, you're not recovering well. This is a big red flag. Less training, more recovery. The biggest change my coaches made was dialing back my training load and prescribing more recovery time. What do they say? You'd rather be 10% underdone than 1% overdone, because you cross the line of overtraining and you've now become an unhealthy individual. We're always pushing that fine line, but you're now in a state of, chasing your tail or trying to reach for something that you're unable to obtain, because your body is simply just too broken down. Your hormone profile is too skewed to enable the right environment for you to actually absorb the training and improve. So like many endurance athletes, I gravitated towards training fairly hard most of the time, plugging away with more or less the same training load most days, weeks, and months. My monthly training volume in 2013 is shown below, and a graph of my daily training load would be similarly flat. Monthly volume hours across here, pretty consistent. The type of relatively constant, unrelenting training is termed high monotony training, and is a risk factor for overtraining, illness, and injury. I identified this problem in January 2013, but failed to make significant changes on my own. One radical change my coach made was introducing 1 day completely off training per week, not even a little recovery workout, nada. Ideally, I'm even supposed to avoid anything triathlon related on that day off. As an athlete who averaged only a couple recovery days per year in the past, I was first reluctant and skeptical, but I was soon a convert. My weekly off day allowed me to muster the physical and mental energy to really get after my training the rest of the week. I can also turn my attention to other activities that otherwise get neglected. I now firmly believe that there is no substitute for a complete rest day. Downtime, increasing downtime. And I'm not going to read through the whole thing because then I'll just be reading the article. But of course, the main things: improving recovery, increasing downtime, strength training. So this is actually important. Another important change was the introduction of quality strength training several times per week, weights, plyometrics, band work. The evidence supporting the direct benefits of resistance training for endurance sport is equivocal. However, the testosterone boosting effect of resistance training is well established. It can therefore help counteract the effects of chronic endurance exercise, which tends to lower testosterone levels in men. So yeah, certainly endurance training is one of the ways which you can somewhat mitigate or offset the effects of chronic endurance training on your hormonal profile. And I definitely agree that if you can make time to do at least one strength training or two strength training sessions a week, it would be in your best interest, not just from a performance perspective, but an overall health and longevity perspective as well. Energy balance, fueling, and weight. So one of the most important factors contributing to my low T eluded me for the longest time. From 2009 to 2012, there is little question that I did not eat enough, period. I never starved myself, but I sorely misguided less is more mentality regarding food, and weight led to restrictive eating habits. I discussed this revelation in Fatter or Faster, finding my race weight. I purposely increased my weight from a low of around 62.5 kilograms in 2012. So my current weight was 70 kilograms, which is, obviously 8 kilo difference, or 7-8 kilos in the realm of big difference. And it wasn't all muscle. And again, he's still super lean. So the muscle, it is a lot of muscle, maybe a tiny bit of fat, but he's very, very lean. I've erred on the side of caution and stopped attempting to directly manipulate my body weight and composition. Low body fat or body fat losses may be a risk factor for low T, so recovering from low testosterone is not the time to cut down. But the real surprise was that total calories and body weight weren't the entire problem. Until May 2014, I scarcely fueled any workouts. Of the 15 to 25 hour training weeks I did per week, I only occasionally lightly fueled my long rides. I did countless hard 2 or 3 hour workouts on water alone. I'm not exactly sure what I was thinking, but I seemed to be getting away with it. Compared to others, I've always had an almost freakish ability to perform without fuel or even fluids during long workouts. I gained a major insight from working with a brilliant sports doctor, as luck would have it, the lead author of IOC consensus statement on REDS in sport, which is relative energy deficit syndrome in sport, which I now believe is a major cause of my low T. So, again, you guys can read through all this, but simply put, the amount and timing of food did not meet the high energy demands of any training. Constantly underfueling workouts was harmful. This came as a surprise, but painfully obvious. Again, if you're underfueling workouts and becoming or entering, glucose exhausting yourself, not ensuring your hydration status is optimal, you're going to finish a workout with a very much higher cortisol level than if you had otherwise fueled it properly. So energy timing is important. Fueling workouts is important. But I'll wrap it up there. Obviously, nutrition and supplements, all very important. Sleep, we've talked about. And you guys can read through this. But I think if anyone wants to improve their testosterone levels and their overtraining, certainly an article to read. Take care, guys. Post any questions in the comments below. And I'll see everyone in the next video. A very warm welcome.